Hi, welcome to Tem Studios. My name is Krish, and I'm a technical account manager based out of New Zealand. This is part 2 of the work automation series. Today, I will take you through the basic work automation configuration process. However, let's first have a recap on what we discussed in the previous video, followed by a quick overview of the use case we have selected for this demo, and finally, a configuration video to bring everything together. Work automation helps you define tasks and automate their flow according to predefined processes. When a work item is created, it moves through different stages with a unique status at each stage. Based on the category of work, you can define a work type, each having its own data attributes and lifecycle. When a work item requires an agent's attention, the task either routes to an agent like a regular ACD interaction or moves to a common location called workbins from which the agents can assign themselves the tasks. Also, you can set up the automation to capture the events and run a workflow based on the business requirements. To understand the process in the most simplest manner, consider an insurance claim process. A customer raises a claims request via a web form on the company's website that triggers a Genesys Cloud API to create a work item. Genesys Cloud creates a work item or task to track this request. The work item begins with the initial status as open. During this state, an automated workflow checks the required details to verify if additional information is required. The customer is contacted for additional information if verification fails. Alternatively, the work item is progressed to the claims department for processing and decision making. Finally, the work item is closed with either an approved or declined status. How does this look from a configuration standpoint? Let's take a deep dive to explore it. Before we dive into the configuration, let's go through some prerequisites for work automation. Work automation is Genesys' product. However, we will need to activate this via App Foundry. Please request a free trial via App Foundry, and one of our experts will assist you in activating the product. Once done, you will be required to create a new role and add the required permissions to it. This role will be assigned to the users who will use work automation. If you would require assistance with creating roles and permissions, please refer to our Genesys Cloud Resource Center as we have a comprehensive overview about this topic. Work items can be handled by a queue, like an ACD interaction, or it can be picked up by a resource manually. For this demo, I have created a queue. Let's look at it. Navigate to Admin, Contact Center, Queues. I've created a queue called KM_insurance. Let's go through the configuration together. I've given it a name. You can give it a description. I've selected home as its division, and I've left everything else as default on the general tab. Under routing, I've left the scoring method as conversation score. I've set the routing method as standard routing and evaluation method as best available skills. I've added a few members to my queue. I had some predefined wrap-up codes, which I've added to this queue, and I've set the alerting timeout of 60 seconds to this queue. Alerting timeout is the amount of time that an agent or a user will be alerted of a work item prior to the work item going back into the work bin. We'll save these configurations. I've also created an ACD skill called insurance, which I will be using later in the configuration. Now that a queue has been created, let's create some custom attributes. Navigate to Admin, Task Management, Custom Attributes. For this demo, I have created insurance_KM custom attribute. However, if you'd like to create a new custom attribute, click Create Schema. For now, we will just explore the configuration for the custom attribute I have created. I've given it a name, a description, and I've added a few custom attributes to this schema. To add a new custom attribute, click Add Custom Attribute. Please visit Genesys Cloud Resource Center for an in-depth understanding of the field types and their properties. For this demo, let's use large text fields. I'll give this field a name. We can call it address. Notice the field key is a system-generated field. You are able to edit the key field. However, Genesys recommends leaving the key field as is. You can add a description, and notice large text field type allows me to enter a maximum of 1,000 characters. I'll click Add to add the custom attribute. Before I click Save, Notice I'm still able to edit and delete the entry that we have created. After we hit save, notice we are no longer able to delete the custom attribute that we had created. We will, however, be able to edit it, and the only fields that we are able to edit are the field name and the description. The field key is not editable. Now that we have created a custom attribute, let's create workbins. We've got two options. We could either create a workbin directly from workbins. There isn't much configuration required to create a workbin. Click Create Workbin, give it a name, give it a description, and select your division. Click Save to create your workbin. A second option is creating a workbin while creating your work type. To create a new work type, click Create New Work Types. However, for this demo purpose, I've already created a work type. Let's explore the configuration. I've given it a name. You can give it a description. And now we can select the workbin that we have created. Or for this demo purpose, I've already created KM_insurance as my workbin. You could also create a new workbin by clicking Create New Workbin and follow the steps that you followed while creating a workbin prior. Now let's look at properties. Under properties, you are able to define the serviceability of a work item. Same as any other interaction, the length of time by when a work item has to be completed or closed. Expiration date defines the length of time after which a work item will expire, and lifespan defines the life of a work item in this work type, after which it will be deleted. Lastly, select your custom attributes. For this demo, I have already selected insurance_KM and saved it. Note, once you have selected a custom attribute and saved it to a work type, you would not be able to amend the custom attribute. Moving on, routing. Routing enabled, if turned on, would allow a work item to route to an agent like a standard ICD interaction. When it is off, the work item moves to the workbin and follows the automatic status transition workflow that we will set up soon. This option is used to perform analysis and data collection before it is passed to an agent manually. You can select a default queue, a default language, default priority, and a skill. When an agent becomes available in the specified queue, the work item with a higher priority routes earlier than the others. Status Transition Builder. On this page, you define the different statuses that a work item could possibly fall under. Use the Status Transition Map Switch to change your view from a visual to a tabular format. Genesys Cloud provides 4 different status categories within which you can create sub-statuses. Define the initial status for any newly created work item. Upon creation, the work item assumes this status and begins the status transition process. To create a new status, click Add Status and enter name and description. For example, under category In Progress, I have created verification and claims. Click Add Restrictions to define the possible statuses that this status can transition to. For example, a work item in open status can transition to verification. For any status under closed category, you can select Terminate Work Item on selection of status. Only closed statuses can auto-terminate. The work item changes state to terminate once this status is selected. Termination of work items allows supervisors to track the closure of work items and their SLA compliance. Note, the flag icon next to the closed status signifies terminate work item on selection of status is enabled. Auto status transition defines how the statuses that you built earlier transition from one to another upon defined threshold expiry. The automatic triggers that you configure can ensure the work item completes the predefined processes before it transitions to the next status. The Auto Status Transition page lists the different statuses that you created. Click Add Transition alongside each status and define the transition setting. In the Select Auto Transition status field, set the next status for the work item. All statuses you defined as the status restrictions are available in this list. Next, set the duration. You can set a duration based on minutes, hours, or days. You can also select a time for when the status transitions. For the demo purpose, I would not make this change. Let's explore rules. For this demo, I've created 3 rules. 1, upon a work item creation, and 2, for status transition. I've also enabled these rules for them to be executed. Note, I do not have any work item flow associated with these rules. Let me take you through the steps for creating the work item flow. Simply click Go to Architect, and you will be redirected to work item flows. Click Add. Give this flow a name, a description if you will. Select your work type. I'll select KM_insurance. I'll leave the language and division default, but I will ensure Generate Flow Logic is enabled. This will allow Genesys Cloud to create a workflow based on the statuses that you have created in the work type configuration. Now that the workflow has been created, please notice the statuses created in the work type earlier. For this demo purpose, I'll keep it simple. I'll select event type work item created reusable task and drag transfer to ACD action under start. I'll now select the queue that I created earlier and add my skill. I'll leave everything else as default. I'll save and publish this work item flow now. Let's now create a work item to see how the work automation works. For this, I'll just use the Genesys Cloud API tools to now inject the work items. I've got the required information to create a work item. I'll hit execute request to now create a work item. Notice I'm not on the queue. As such, I will not receive the work item. If I navigate to list view, select work item lists, select our KM insurance work bin, I should now see the work item that we just created. Let me now go on the queue to explore the agent experience. As soon as I go into the queue, I receive the work item, I'll answer the work item and review the information. At this particular point in time, I can edit the information, or I can simply transition this work item to the next status, select my wrap-up codes, and disconnect the work item. We have now successfully configured work automation on Genesys Cloud. Hope this video was informative. Please comment below or email us on temstudios@genesys.com. Please stay tuned for more work automation videos as we create them. This is your Tem signing off. Thanks for watching.